People often say to us, well, we don't have any trans people in our workplace, so I don't know any trans people. Why does it matter? And our response would be, well, A, you may not think you have had any encounters and know a trans person, but it's highly likely that within your circle, not necessarily at work, but in your community, in your friendship group, maybe in your wider family, you may well know a trans person. They may not be out, but statistically, if you're in a room full of 100 people, at least one of those people is going to be trans. So that's the first thing to think, that you may not think you know, but you don't know.
And fundamentally, even if you don't know any out trans people, inclusion matters because it's the right thing to do and has benefits to your business. I don't need to know, and I didn't know, in fact, any blind people before I met Sarah, but I still saw the value in making spaces accessible so that blind people could access them, because they still have a lot to offer. They're still people who deserve to be able to live and thrive in society.
People often say to us, do you have to, when they use the phrase, fully transition to be a trans person? I think the important thing to remember is that transition isn't a linear process. In my case, I did socially transition, so I changed my name, my records. I started being, using my new name and new pronouns at work. I then did go down the route of medical transition, but that was very much my choice and what I felt was right for me. There is sometimes this idea that you're only really trans if you've gone through that process, you've had the surgery, you've done all the medical things available. And yet lots of trans people, for a whole range of reasons, be it other medical factors that mean they can't have the medical transition, or they simply don't want it, they don't feel they need it, that's fine. You are trans enough if you simply feel and believe that you are trans.
And obviously, from a legal perspective, it's probably important to know that in a UK context, the definition of gender reassignment and what it means to be living authentically as your gender is actually fairly broad and doesn't need you to have medically transitioned. So that's, talking about hormones or surgery, etc. It can actually just be social transition, and plenty of trans people don't do all of the bits. They do what feels right for them, because just like cisgender people, there's a whole spectrum of existence and identities. There's been a huge amount of research on the benefits of diversity and inclusion to businesses, from increased productivity to better retention rates. Fundamentally, it impacts your bottom line, and most businesses, I like to think, want to be around for 5, 10, even more years, as long as possible. And if you actually want to future-proof your business, then you really need to value diversity and inclusion, because that's what will allow you to innovate and to create creative solutions to an ever-changing and very rapidly evolving modern world.
And also, the more diverse you as an organisation can be, you're going to have less groupthink, you're going to be more diverse about the approaches you take, and you will appeal more to a more diverse audience in terms of clients, and your business